I agree.
No more excuses.
Lamed Gimel Amad Aleph. Abaye Mesader Marocha Mishmei Gemara. So this is the famous sugya regarding the order of the avod in the morning. Ali B'Daber Shol. This gives us the order 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, how they arranged all the avod in the morning. Marocha Gedola Kodemus Marocha Shniya Shel Ketores. The building of the main grill on the Mizbeach, that's called the Marocha Gedola, preceded building the grill, which they had a separate grill for the coals used to burn the Ketores. Marocha Shniya Shel Ketores Kodemus L'Sider Shnei Gizrei Eitzim. Then, after they set up the grill for the Ketores, they brought the 2 special logs that had to be brought every day. The logs were arranged on the big grill prior to the cleaning of the inside Mizbech, the Mizbech Hazav and the Heichal, in which they burnt the Ketores. Then, after they did that, the menorah had 7 neiros. First, they cleaned out 5 neiros, and then hatovas chamesh neiros kodim l'dam atomid. Then they already shechted the korban. They waited to do the zrika of the dam atomid until after the hatovas chamesh neiros. The dam atomid kodim l'hatovas shtei neiros. Then they cleaned out the last 2 neiros. Then they burnt the ketores. Then they placed the pieces of the Olas HaTamid on the Mizbeach. They varim la mincha. Then there was always a minchas nesachim that was offered at the same time as the korban HaTamid. And there was a mincha chavitin, the mincha that was brought by the Kohen Gadol every day was offered them. Then the chavitin and the sachim, then they poured the wine. And if it was on a day like Rosh Chodesh or Shabbos, then they offered the musaf, nesachim and musafim. Finally, if it was Shabbos and they had the spice bowls, the levona that was sitting on top of the lechem apanim, musafin levazichin, they threw the spice, uvazichin the tamid shel ben arbaim, and then they shechted the tamid shel ben arbaim, sheneamar v'ktira leachel ve'ashlamim, alei hashlam kol harkorbanos kulo. That was the last korban done in the day. Now we're going to analyze the baraisa. Omar Mar, Maracha Gedola Kohen L'Rocha Shniya Shel Ketores Minollah. How do we know that the big grill was done before the little grill? The Tanya. Hi ha'oila al moikto al mizbeach kol halayla. Zu Maracha Gedola. That refers to the big grill. Then the eish mizbeach tu kadbo. Zu Maracha Shniya Shel Ketores. Freak the Gemara ve'epachana. Maybe we reverse that. Maybe the Ketores goes first. And for the Gemara, Mistavra Marocha Gedola Adifa, Shekain Kaparos in the Ruba, there's more kapara that is achieved by the big grill. So because there's more kapara, that makes more logical sense to arrange that grill first. Freak the Gemara, Adarabba Marocha Shniya Adifa, Shekain Machnis B'mena Lifnim. The Ketores goes on the inside. So maybe it's a higher Kedusha. And for the Gemara, Filohachi Kaparosa Meruba Adifa. We still choose more kapara than having an avodah done on the inside. The boy said, maybe I'll tell you, let's say you didn't have enough wood to fill up the grill, the second grill. Mila Moel Maracha, wouldn't we take the coals from the first Maracha? We would. So the wood from the first Maracha can be used for the Ketores as well. So that makes, from a logical point of view, that the Ketores the grill for the Ketores would go second. Then the Mishnah said, Maracha Shneir Shaktoris Kodemel Siddur Shnei Gzir Eitzim, that they arranged the Ktoris grill prior to bringing the two logs. How do we know that? The Sieve. Uvier Alea Kohen Eitzim Baboker. Aleha V'lo Chaverta. That means on it and not on the other one. So there is a Chaverta. Mashma, there's already two grills there. Afraid the Gemara, yeah, but
it doesn't. It sounds strange because they put the blocks on top of the ash, and then how do they take the ash away?
No, the ashes were taken away first. That's the Truma Sadesh. That's the first avoda.
Oh,
the ash was taken away already before. Here we're building up the grill with wood.
Yes, but then it says precedes the separation of the ash.
That's the ash of the inside, the Mizbech Hazov inside the
okay.
Heichal.
Yeah.
So Trei Alea Ksivi. There's two aleas. One to teach me the din that you have to put it on the grill. Then it says, like you said, Mario, Siddur Shnei Gzir Eitzim Kodem L'Dishum Mizbech HaPnimi. This is talking about they brought the two logs out to the Mizbech Hachitza on the outside Mizbech prior to cleaning the ash from the inner Mizbech. Now, L'chora, the pasuk says baboker by both. So why would one precede the other? You cannot have burning of the ketores on the inside mizbech without the wood from the outside mizbech. So that's a hechsher to the avod of the inside. So machshir, doing that first is adif. So machshir, what machshir are we talking about? Shnei gzir eitzim. Va'amrit shnei gzir eitzim arocha gedoyla azli, but the shnei gzir eitzim is not part of the hachshara for the mizbech hapnimi, because the mizbech hapnimi requires ash from the smaller grill, and the shnei gzir eitzim goes on the bigger grill. Rav Yirmiyah shum eitzim. Yeah, but the name eitzim applies to both grills. Ravina Amar different teretz. Hoyel v'hiskul b'maracha goymer. Since they started b'maracha, they finished with the maracha by putting the shnei gzir eitzim there. Rav Ashi Amar, Ilo mishkach eitzim maracha shniya. We answered the same thing we answered before. Even if you didn't have the second grill, for the ketoris, we would use wood or coals from the big maracha too. Okay. Then we said the dishul mizbech hapnimi kodim latovas chamesh neros. The cleaning the ash of the inner mizbech precedes the preparation of the 5 candles of the menorah. My timer, Amra by Gemara Gemirna. It's a Mesiris. Svara lo yadana. There's no logic for it. However, Rava gives a logic. Reish Lakish, Dam Reish Lakish. Ein mavirin ala mitzvahs. There is a principle that you don't pass over a mitzvah. So when you walk into the Heichal, the Mizbeach was closer to the entrance than the menorah. So there's a concept of ein mavirin ala mitzvahs. You have the mitzvah come to your hand, don't ignore it. You got to do that mitzvah first, and you do the second. And as you went into the Heichal, the Mizbech was situated a little closer. It wasn't exactly in the middle. It was situated a little closer to the entrance. The Tanya. Shulchan Betzafo. The Shulchan was in the north. It was a space away from the wall, 2.5 amos. Menorah Badoro. The menorah was placed opposite the shulchan in the south, also moved away from the wall by 2.5 amos. Mizbech b'mutza v'oimed be'emtza, but u'moshech klape chutz kima. The Mizbech Hazav was placed in between the shulchan and the menorah, but moved a little bit towards the door. Why wasn't it placed exactly opposite? Because kivan dechsiva samenorah noichach hashulchan The pasuk says the menorah has to be exactly opposite the shulchan. If you had the mizbeach right in the middle, you wouldn't be able to say one was opposite the other. And be'in and the chazi adadi, they have to be able to see each other. So we moved the mizbeach a little bit so that in one area, the shulchan and the menorah are opposite each other, exactly, without any intervening item. Amar Rava, Shma minom and Reish Lakish, Avura deroa toitefta asur, that you need to put on your tefillin shel yad before you put on your tefillin shel rosh, because your hand is closer, right? Echi ava midare l'toitefta. First you put the tefillin on your arm, then you put it on your head, for the same principle of ein mavir ala mitzvahs.
Closer to what? What is it? Closer to what? To the heart? By tefillin?
Or even to your hand, which you're using to wrap the tefillin with.
Is that what it is? Is that what it means by closer? That why we put on yad is
Right. La'achat tefillin shebizra b'shvil tefillin shel rosh aser. Daha bizraya paga petchila. You take your hand. You hit your hand before you hit your head. It's closer. That's what Rashi says. Preparing the 5 candles preceded the zrika of the damatomid, and then the damatomid kodim latova shtei neros. Now, why did you have it broken up like this? Why didn't you just light all the menorah? Why didn't you just clean the menorah all at one time? My time. Amar Abaya, hahu baboiker baboiker d'shnei gezer eitzim deloy tzrichi. We already said that when it says baboiker baboiker, by the 2 logs, it's not needed there. So shdin alacha, they move it to here. Chad shai latovas chamesh neros. 1 baboiker is to tell me that the chamesh neros goes before ladama tamid. The chad shai ladama tamid is nikdim latovas shtei neros. And the other baboiker tells me that the zrik of the dama tamid precedes the cleaning out of the other 2 neros. Because if you add, it already says baboiker, and then you added 1 baboiker because you didn't need the shnei gizer eitzim, so you have 2 against 3 against 2. 3 by the hatovas chamesh neros, 2 by the damatomi. V'chad shai the damatomi the need to be hatovas shtei neros, and the second baboiker is added to the 2 of the damatomid, so that's 3 against 2 for the hatovas shtei neros. And afagav the hachatrei mechaper adi. And even though you started off with baboiker against baboiker, the baboiker of the damatomid is preferable because there's more kapora with the zrika sadam. Why don't we use the drasha that one of those baboikers is added to the baboiker of Dishum Mizbech Apnimi to teach me that that's why the Dishum Mizbech Apnimi goes before the Damatami. The Hachat Tlas of Hachat Trey, the Chat Shali Damatami, the Nigdal Latavs Chamesh Neros, and maybe you've just given me a proof that the Damatami should go even before the Chamesh Neros. The Avagav, the Hachat Trey, also you'll say Machaper Adif. And for the Gemara in Kenav Suke b'May Masaktalu, we know that there had to be a hafsaka between the chamesh neiros and the 2 neiros, and we stick the damatomid in the middle. And if it wasn't for the order that we've proposed, we would have no hafsaka.
Is there again between all these avodas? Is there a tefillah too? Is that what it says? Is there a tefillah between every, like we learned yesterday? Is there a tefillah between every one of these avodas?
No. The tefillah only takes place when they change garments on Yom Kippur. When you go from Big Day Zav to Big Day Love, and you need a tefillah.
But during the week, but during the year, the rest of the year,
they're wearing the regular begadim.
Mm-hmm.
No change of begadim.
If by chance he changes, if he makes a mistake, is the whole avoda not ma'akiv? if he by chance, if he switches by accident one avoda before another, what does it do?
It's not, we'll see later that it's not ma'akev.
Okay.
So hanichal Reish Lakish, the Amar Lama Metivin v'Choizer Metivin. So Reish Lakish explains why we just didn't go in and clean up all 7 neighbors at one time. That first you do 5, then you do a break, and then you do 2. Why? Kedei lahargish kol hazar kula. It was more dramatic doing it that way because there was a whole ceremony of how they did it. So here's an example where the avoda was sort of choreographed in a way to make it more dramatic. So El Rav Yochanan Omer Baboiker Chal Kelu Shnei Bekorim. Now, according to Rav Yochanan, the pasuk tells you that you have to do it in 2, because Baboiker says give a boiker for each one. That means divide it into 2 mornings and split it up. So you have to do, you have to separate it, make radin. Ravashi, hi baboiker the eitzim mimi yatri. So we said before that by the Shnei Gezirei Eitzim it said baboiker, and we used it. We put one baboiker here and one baboiker there, so we could have kadima. But now the Gemara is going to ask, you need the baboiker for the Shnei Gezirei Eitzim. It's not available for a drasha. That the Shnei Gezirei Eitzim has to be done before you arrange the grill. Remember, we learned before today that the aleh means it has to be when both grills have already made. So we already have a kadima there. So, fine. You proved to me that you need division. But why don't we do 2 and then 5? Why do we do 5 and then 2? Once you start, you got to do the majority. So they do 5. So afraid to get more of an avid shis. Why don't they do 6? Plural, yaktirena. The eineros pchusa mishtayim. They got to leave at least 2, otherwise it wouldn't fulfill the pasuk of neiros. Then the Brisa said, "Vatovish neiros kodemus liktoiros." Why is the cleaning of the menorah prior to the ktoiros? The Amar Kra, behetivo es haneiros, v'hadar yaktirena, and then it talks about the ktoiros. Now, the Brisa said the Ketores Leivorim. The Ketores goes prior to placing the limbs of the Olas HaTomid on the Mizbeach. The Tanya, Yukdam Dover Shenemar Baboker, Ledover Shelo Nemar Bo Ela Boiker Echad Bilvad. By the Eivorim, it only has 1 boiker. And by the Ketores it says Baboker. So the Ketores goes before the Eivorim. How do you know that the Eivorim Lemincha, that the placing the pieces of the Ola on the Mizbech goes prior to the Mincha? The Tanya. Minayin Shlei Dover Kodem L'Tovit Shel Shachar. No avoda can proceed prior to the Tomit Shel Shachar. This will be a whole limud that we'll learn tomorrow night. Okay.
Okay, Ernie Shkoyach. It's Shabbos, everybody.
Shabbos, everybody. And
Good
tomorrow
Shabbos.
night, 9 o'clock.
Sure.
Okay.
Good Shabbos, Shkoyach.
Good
Bye,
Shabbos.
everybody. Sure,
Bye.
everybody. Bye, Mario.
Shabbos. Shabbos.
Shabbos.